some of MasterChef's craziest pressure tests. And what happened in this episode was shockingly insane. The pressure tests were an important element of MasterChef, equal parts iconic and entertaining, which is why fans had an uproar when they decided to do away with them from season 12 onwards. So today, for the sake of nostalgia, I bring to you some good old pressure tests which were incredibly difficult. Let's start with season 4, episode 7. It was group challenge day at Pasadena Centennial Hall, with Bethy and Bime leading 8 teams. They had 90 minutes to prepare a 10-ounce NY strip steak, a sauce, and 2 side dishes for 101 off-duty firefighters. We then see Chef Ramsay go on and on about Walmart.
Only 1 in 5 steaks is good enough to be called Walmart Choice Premium Beef. It's aged for flavor and tenderness.
Okay, let me stop you right there. It was tough to take a culinary giant seriously when they were promoting Walmart. Maybe the show couldn't land any other sponsors big enough to cover the production costs. Who really knows? I wonder how many of his restaurants actually sourced from Walmart. A savvy restaurateur like Joe would never let the Walmart brand be linked to his restaurants. It is seen as cheap, impersonal, low quality, and just not sophisticated enough for Joe. As expected on the show, this team challenge unfolded with the usual mix of communication breakdowns and mayhem.
There's not even a steak seared yet!
But let's fast forward and see who were declared as winners.
Blue team!
So, Bime's Team Red was on the way to the pressure test, and all hell broke loose during cleanup. Luca tried to keep it chill, but Beth started crying about the cauliflower puree being disgusting. Meanwhile, Natasha took it super personally and went off.
That is disrespectful to talk about food saying that it's disgusting. You don't call food disgusting, period.
Although Bree rushed to comfort Beth, things were getting heated fast.
You are doing nothing to help the problem. You are literally causing it.
I'll spare you the drama. So skipping ahead, the judges decide to save Bime and give him the chance to rescue another contestant.
I'm getting out of there. If you give me the chance, I'm out. Sorry.
This left the other 6 team members to face off in a pressure test that was all about this.
4 components. A perfectly poached egg sitting upon a slice of Canadian.
They had 30 minutes to cook the judges a perfect plate of Eggs Benedict. And this when Graham came up with a warning.
Highly technical dish to perfect. Guys, it's time to head to your stations.
On the other hand, guess what Joe had to say?
You only get 1 shot at this.
You've just 30 minutes to cook us that perfect plate.
And as always, Chef Ramsay had the last word.
Be maybe 2 out of the 6 contestants tonight breaking their hollandaise sauce.
For home cooks, the only practical way to hold hollandaise for 20 minutes is to pour it into a thermos, and they probably don't have those. Leaving it at room temp will just make it congeal, thicken up, and maybe even separate or break, which means you'll be scrambling to fix it at the last minute. Hollandaise should always be whipped up right before you dish it out. Anyway, Beth seemed confident, claiming she always whipped up Eggs Benedict at home.
I want, more than anything, to take Natasha out.
Usually, when they highlight that, it's a sign that the person is about to get the boot. Bree confesses she'd never nailed a poached egg. And I guess you have a fair idea of how that's gonna end.
An egg.
Who do you think's gonna nail this one? Who's gonna...
Funny how the editing usually sets someone up for a surprise success. Anyway, back to the test. Natasha was playing it cool, saving her sauce for the final touch. But that's when Chef Ramsay tried to shake her confidence with some tough love.
Things can go wrong even if you're good at it.
Meanwhile, Chrissy hit a snag. Her hollandaise was a mess. And the next thing you know, we could see her tossing out the sauce, which is the absolute last resort when your hollandaise splits or goes south.
There's no way she's getting done. Hey, Chrissy, let's take the hollandaise.
It's coming.
The judges were pretty concerned.
Full?
I can't watch this anymore.
Oh my God. I have 1 egg left.
But did she recover? Oh, wait. Guess what happened meanwhile?
I'm not sure if the yolk broke or not.
You want to see how good it is? It's right there on my glasses.
Ah, you're yet to see the worst though.
Last minute, guys.
Yikes. But what did I tell you about editing? If it's going bad during the cooking process, 8 times out of 10, the contestant will deliver during the judging and vice versa. Anyway, when time was up, the Benedicts hit the table.
So, bacon cooked beautifully.
Yeah, as expected, Kathy's dish was flawless from egg to base.
There's nowhere near enough of it. You've just sort of drizzled it on there when it should coated.
Meanwhile, Luca's eggs were underdone. Graham then did his thing, which is sticking the entire fork in his mouth and exaggerated his chewing while looking up to the left.
It's kind of all over the place.
And then he said,
Natasha's Eggs Benedict looks the worst.
Natasha's plate was a mess, egg yolks leaking all over, and her hollandaise got overbeaten. Too buttery and not enough yolk, ending up more like mayo.
Honestly, I added a little too much vinegar, so turned to mayonnaise.
She blamed it on too much vinegar, but really, it's that delicate yolk-to-fat balance that separates hollandaise from mayonnaise. Next up, Beth, despite her confidence, served up a messy plate.
Beth failed miserably. Looks like a mess.
You seem so confident.
She'd never had a hollandaise break before, but that day, it was a disaster, complete with those slightly undercooked eggs.
Slightly undercooked.
But she owned up to it without excuses.
You would have made that dish better by leaving the sauce off.
Yeah, I respect your integrity. Rest in peace, Beth. Now Brie, despite her lack of experience with the dish, nailed her Benedict. It was nearly flawless, with the best presentation of the bunch. As for Chrissy, she managed to pull through too, serving enough hollandaise, and soon enough, she was in the clear.
Wow.
And what do you know? It tasted good too.
Okay,
Next, the judges were deep in deliberation, stuck because all 4 performances were so bad they couldn't make a clear call. Chrissy and Brie were obviously safe, but Beth, Natasha, Luca, and Kathy were all on thin ice. And just as you're waiting for the verdict, Chef Ramsay dropped the bomb.
This is not the way I'm supposed to go out.
None of you nailed it.
Just when it seems like they might all get axed, something crazy happened.
we'll be leaving the kitchen.
No. Oh my God.
What?
Yeah, they announced an epic, overly dramatic pressure test, MasterChef history in the making.
OMG.
Where we will decide which one of you will...
It was to stretch over a full extra episode in Vegas just to decide who would be going home among these 4. It was clear this was all part of the plan from the start, from a production standpoint, but I wonder what would have happened if only 2 flopped while 4 excelled. But anyway, this time, the 4 contestants in danger of elimination were led to a real restaurant.
But this isn't just any Vegas restaurant.
It's mine.
Yes, it was Chef Ramsay's Burgiar restaurant in Sin City in the Planet Hollywood complex.
We average about 860 burgers a night.
Now, they don't make their menu available online, but you can read their reviews on Yelp, and many customers have complained about cold fries, under-seasoned burgers that were mediocre at best, and not worth the price at all. For example, one customer named Kathleen from Canada, who decided to splurge on Wagyu burgers in March this year, says that the entire dining experience was unsatisfactory and not what you'd expect from a Gordon Ramsay restaurant. For $50, she got a bad burger. The only toppings were a few onion pieces, the patty, and a single piece of cheese. And get this, the bun was completely soggy. Another customer named Benjamin from LA, who visited the restaurant in May this year, wrote, "Damn bro, you should be ashamed. Gordon Ramsay would yell at Gordon Ramsay if he ate here. I'd love to see a Kitchen Nightmares episode of this place. Damn, it's that bad, huh?" Anyway, back to the episode. The restaurant shut down its usual service, handing over operations to the contestants. Graham explained that Burger typically runs with 13 chefs. A head chef, 3 sous chefs, and 9 line cooks. However, it was just the 4 contestants in charge that night, even though they'll likely serve a limited number of guests. Chef Ramsay stepped into the role of expediter to keep things moving smoothly.
At some point during tonight's service, we've invited some high-rolling Vegas VIPs to taste your burgers.
Next, the judges paired up the teams. Beth was paired with Natasha, while Luca teamed up with Kathy. It was clear Luca and Kathy had the edge here. Since Luca runs a restaurant, he kinda already knew how to make it work. The challenge gave them 1 hour for prep and 75 minutes for continuous service, focusing on creating a unique signature burger. Luca opted for an all-beef burger with caramelized onions and sauce, skipping the cheese. Kathy, however, fretted over America's cheese-on-burger obsession.
The burgers, I don't agree because I feel every burger in town should be with cheese.
Now, Beth's vision was a mouth-watering hangover burger featuring Gruyere, crispy prosciutto, a sunny side-up egg, and truffle aioli.
Over a burger, we'll get some Gruyere, some crispy prosciutto, and a sunny side-up egg with like a truffle aioli.
I mean, just hearing about it makes me hungry. It sounds absolutely incredible. Now they had to worry about getting the patties and the eggs just right. However, Natasha had a strategic move. She was letting Beth take charge and make all the decisions. By stepping back from the leadership role right away, Natasha was setting herself up to avoid blame if their team loses.
A fault later in this competition, she's gonna take the blame because I'm just going along with what she thinks.
I mean, that's incredibly shrewd. Moving on, the judges decide to dive into the patty, the heart of any great burger.
Why would you need to put egg in the burger when you've got those two blends?
I do it all the time and it makes it so moist.
I mean, using them.
Chef Ramsay seemed overly concerned when Beth added egg to her patty mix, but that might just be for the cameras. After all, the egg adds richness, not a whole new flavor profile. Later, Chef Ramsay stepped in because it looked like they prioritized toppings over the patty itself.
You're dressing salad and we haven't got the burger pate done. Get that? Pate nailed now before you do anything.
And it wasn't long before he predicted they were headed for a loss.
Both of you, someone's going home tonight. And right now, at this stage, it's one of you.
By MasterChef logic, this means they'll actually win. It's funny how you can start predicting these outcomes once you start minutely observing how formulaic the editing is. However, both teams faced setbacks and had to adjust their plans on the fly. Luca sacrificed his sauce plans to assist Kathy with caramelizing onions, which, by the way, were falling way behind schedule.
It's too long to prepare the caramelized onions. I don't have time for the sauce.
Meanwhile, Beth and Natasha scrapped their sunny side-up eggs due to difficulties, opting instead for goat cheese and arugula to complement their crispy prosciutto.
Just scratch the egg, do the goat cheese, arugula, and then the prosciutto. Exactly. Then I can focus more on the prosciutto and have it crispy.
Chef Ramsay also threw in a surprise rule as service kicked off. Once he called for an order and one team's dish was ready in the window, he'd wait no more than 60 seconds for the other team's dish before sending out the food.
Time. Otherwise,
then they start losing votes.
They start losing votes. You have 5 minutes.
It added a layer of complexity for the teams, but since they were making identical plates repeatedly, it was simpler compared to the usual chaos in restaurant kitchens where different dishes from various stations must sync perfectly. At one point, Beth and Natasha had an order ready to go, but Kathy and Luca hadn't even started cooking their patties. They were still on the grill.
We need them patties.
Yeah, but if they're not ready, they're not ready. What do you want me to do?
Chef Ramsay started yelling at Luca, as if that would magically speed up the cooking process.
Focus the window, order's gone.
Put the onion in, put the onion in.
5, 4.
Instead, it just left Luca feeling frustrated and powerless. In response, Luca plated rare burgers, which earned him another tongue lashing from Chef Ramsay.
It's that raw. You've lost it. Time up.
Careful, Chef Ramsay, your Hell's Kitchen vibe is showing. It was no walk in the park for Beth and Natasha's team either. They accidentally burned one of their buns in the salamander, and Chef Ramsay put a stop to everything just to give them an earful.
Start around like this. Do you know what that tells me?
Meanwhile, Luca and Kathy's burgers kept coming back undercooked.
Show the kitchen, then you come back. Chef, these burgers are completely raw.
Raw, again.
As if things weren't tense enough, the VIPs arrived, who, by the way, were none other than the other contestants. Luca immediately decided to rush his orders to the window, leaving Beth and Natasha struggling to keep up within that tight 60-second window.
1 minute, let's go, Natasha.
Things on their side of it. Here you go, chef.
Natasha, come on, come on.
This tactic only worked for the final 4 burgers, automatically putting Natasha and Beth down by 4 votes. And finally, the results were in. Beth and Natasha ended up receiving the most votes. They didn't specify how many burgers they cooked, but judging from the voting device, one side had about 30 chips and the other side just under 25 chips. Well, I guess they likely served between 50 to 60 burgers in total. And with that, Kathy and Luca found themselves facing yet another challenge in this marathon pressure test that had already stretched across nearly 2 episodes. And this time, they were tasked with handling one of the most expensive, luxurious ingredients in the world.
Every year, 6 million of these are consumed in Vegas alone.
Yes, they had 45 minutes to pull it off with a small salad. Eventually, both contestants presented their lobster dishes, and Kathy's lobster turned out to be cooked perfectly.
Slightly exploded.
But Chef Ramsay found the removal of the knuckles from the shell a bit too rough for his liking. Next, it was time for Graham's feedback.
As far as the plating, it looks like another 2 or 3 minutes and
But her salad turned out to be overly acidic.
good as the lobster.
Seasoned beautifully.
Perfectly cooked.
Meanwhile, Joe had his own set of criticism to make.
We all see something in you. Tonight, it's all down to this.
Now, coming to Luca's lobster. It was plated perfectly well, but the meat appeared too pale.
Anemic side because it's lacking color. And slices down the middle. It should cut like a stick of butter. And it should be just glistening.
However, the lobster was glistening, which happens to be a positive point.
The only thing I would change is having that temperature be a little higher to get that color.
In the end, despite the thick competition, Kathy was the one who got the axe. By the way, did you know that after her appearance, she did 2 days of training at Chef Ramsay's London restaurant before being asked not to return? Yeah, that happened too. Anyway, moving on to Season 5, Episode 15. After losing the restaurant takeover challenge, the blue team led by Jamie and her brigade, Christian and Courtney, was in the pressure test, and this is what they had to cook.
It's a classic French dessert. beautiful to look at, and even more incredible to eat.
I mean, that was definitely a tall order for the home cooks.
Forget the fancy name, let's just call it what it is. A big old yummy cream puff tower.
Yeah, they had only 90 minutes on the clock to build this pastry monstrosity. Chef Ramsay went on about how the tower needed to have the right consistency and filling.
That is not easy. And then there's the filling. The consistency has to be perfect. Not too sweet, not too thick.
In filling.
Make sure the whole thing doesn't fall over.
And it absolutely couldn't collapse.
Into an incredible cone, bound with threads of caramel. Look at this light pastry.
The task was incredibly difficult. However, Courtney expressed confidence that things would come together, but Chef Ramsay pointed out that her cream puffs were varying in size.
Purposely done, or?
I was going for consistency, realized.
If you're not going home, who is?
I don't know.
She acknowledged this flaw and admitted she might be the one going home.
20 minutes to go.
With only 20 minutes left until the deadline, they began preparing their caramel. They discussed the delicate process of caramelization, emphasizing the need to leave it undisturbed or risk ruining it. By the time Jamie began assembling her tower, and soon after, Courtney followed suit. However, Christian complained that his sugar wasn't the right color yet.
The right color. If I don't get the right texture or the right color, I'm all the way screwed.
Meanwhile, Courtney was hard at work assembling hers. With just 8 minutes left, Christian struggled and ended up burning himself while his tower started collapsing due to the improperly caramelized sugar.
Now it's starting to collapse.
Frantically using tongs to salvage fallen pieces, Christian faced a race against the clock. As time dwindled down to 30 seconds, the pressure was intense.
30 seconds to go.
And just like that, the time was up, and the home cooks stepped up to present their creations. Chef Ramsay approached Courtney, complimenting how beautiful her tower looked.
The spun sugar just should tear away.
He carefully removed a piece and placed it on a cream puff. It was a job well done. Graham couldn't stop raving about her spun sugar.
It adds a completely different thing in there, is that pastry cream. This is what we asked for.
And on top of it all, here comes the master stroke.
Thank you, Chef.
Christian.
Next, Chef Ramsay approached Christian, who decided to come forward with an open admission.
On the bottom, I've got a unfinished caramel, almost like a sort of...
Chef Ramsay noted that his tower was uneven in shapes and colors, lacking visual appeal.
The shape's moving there. You've got a slight indent here on the inside. So now it looks like it's been slammed against the wall.
Despite this, Chef Ramsay acknowledged that the puff itself was nicely cooked. Graham also tried to sample one, but 3 puffs pulled apart due to excessive caramel.
It's on that, so...
Although the flavor in itself was good, the caramel was off.
Jamie.
Chef.
Next up was Jamie, and Chef Ramsay pointed out that her creation lacked finishing touches.
The amount of sugar.
Yeah.
None of this sugar should be seen.
As for the caramel, it was a bit too heavy-handed.
When I pick one off there like that, the whole lot is going to come up in my hand.
Chef Ramsay then asked her to pull one off for him to taste, but it was stuck.
Then how the hell am I?
Frustrated, Jamie struggled to free one, prompting Chef Ramsay to express disbelief and remark that she might be in trouble. But eventually, she managed to hack one off. Chef Ramsay then cut it open, only to find it undercooked.
Good, but it tastes nowhere near as good as it looks. I'm sorry, Jamie.
Graham joined in and found the tower to be clumsy at the top, and he also criticized the bland cream and doughy profiterole. Despite it being structurally impressive, the issues kept mounting.
That was an incredibly difficult pressure test.
The pressure was at its peak, and the final result could go in anyone's favor.
And we need a moment to discuss that now.
In the end, Christian's tower was deemed the best tasting despite its lackluster appearance. Chef Ramsay then congratulated Courtney for her impressive tower, which left Jamie looking disappointed. Jamie hoped they would appreciate her visually appealing tower more, but Chef Ramsay had something else to reveal.
It was beautiful, but was totally impractical to break down. I'm sorry, my darling. Come and say goodbye, my darling, please.
I'm so sad.
Oh, and did anyone notice Joe's absence in this episode? No? I mean, is he that dismal? Anyway, let's head to Season 6, Episode 19.
Let's go, guys!
The episode kicked off with the 3 remaining cooks entering the MasterChef kitchen. Their challenge, cooking for 30 skilled chefs who work for the judges, their culinary crew. Which means, Hell's Kitchen fans, you now get to see some familiar faces behind Chef Ramsay.
Walking by her station.
Look at the whole station's grills.
She looks in control.
I mean, these people know the judges' standards better than anyone else.
Look.
I only see 2 pressure cookers.
Are you kidding me?
As for the home cooks, the pressure was on.
One portion more.
Always.
Fortunately, I left a grill on, but we literally have 5 minutes left at this point.
I kinda was nervous for them because this was a lot.
That's a nail. I'm talking about a stunning, delicious.
But the semi-finalists won't be tackling this alone. Tommy, Katrina, and Hatal had returned to lend a hand. Steven teamed up with Tommy, Claudia paired with Katrina, and Derek partnered with Hatal. During the cooking session, Steven prepared pan-seared scallops with rutabaga.
Chef.
The smart move is you kept the grill on.
She's gonna be down to it.
I want you to go wash them.
Claudia opted for grilled octopus, and Derek focused on miso-marinated black cod. But at the 10-minute mark, Claudia ran out of octopus.
Getting up to speed.
Thank you so much. Thank you, enjoy.
The judges were worried, or should I say prompted to act worried.
Scallops for me, amazing. The flavor sort of sings in my mouth.
But she managed to whip up more before time ran out. When it was time to present their dishes to the judges, Hell's Kitchen Season 10 winner Christina Wilson favored Claudia's dish.
But wait till you see what's inside.
However, in the final tally, Derek secured 15 out of 30 votes, earning a spot in the MasterChef finale. This means Claudia and Steven were headed to the pressure test.
Getting to the finale is getting the opportunity to completely change your life.
And they didn't really have much time for the same.
Come on, guys. Start visualizing your next 30 minutes.
Believe me, it was game on.
Where's my bowl?
Guys, Claudia has gotten rid of. How could you make a mistake like that?
I'm in serious trouble.
Seeing loved ones from around the globe visibly lifts their spirits, providing a much-needed boost before the pressure test begins.
Hard to watch. They're both making huge fundamental errors.
Anyway, during the cooking session, Claudia faced a setback when she accidentally tossed out her extra panna cotta mix.
125 degrees.
And the judge reactions were pretty loud.
Claudia, this could be a $250,000 steak.
But of course, she managed to recover in time to remake it. Meanwhile, Steven made a mistake by using a whisk to fold in his egg whites, which isn't ideal.
Right now, I'm starting to second.
Despite this, his souffle managed to rise, but unfortunately, he put it in the oven prematurely.
Medium rare.
This led it to collapse before the judges could sample it.
Thank you.
Anyway, time for the judgment, and Claudia's dish looked pretty solid. However, Steven's was kind of flat. It wasn't surprising to see Claudia win the round. Next, Graham tried the steak Fritos and mentioned they were both cooked perfectly, but he didn't say much about the taste.
It has been an amazing journey. I've learned so much.
Finally, Chef Ramsay tried the panna cotta with raspberry coulis hidden inside. Claudia's was well set, and the inside was great, but like the other judges, Chef Ramsay didn't give much detail about how it tasted. As for Steven's filling, it was leaking out, and this turned out to be a huge problem.
I came here to change my life.
Their own cookbook.
I don't think Derek knows what's about to hit him.
And the MasterChef title.
America's next MasterChef.
In the end, the results were pretty obvious. Claudia went on to the finale, and Steven had to pack his knives and go home. However, Chef Ramsay made an incredible offer to him. So, can you think of more times when the pressure test turned into an intense battleground? Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And if you thought this video was crazy, make sure to check out the next video right here. It's even crazier.